Welcome and thank you for taking the time to come to this National Family Drug Support Day event. Although it's actually true to say that this year it's International Family Drug Support Day, and I'm sure that that's going to extend into the future and we'll see more and more worldwide events. The theme for last year's Family Drug Support Day was drug use can happen in any family, which is of course true. And we noted all the negative elements of being a family supporting someone with drug and alcohol issues and the lack of support generally for those families. This year the theme is see the person, not the drug, and I'm going to focus in my couple of minutes this time talking about that, and I'm going to feature probably something that's more positive this year. So I'm going to go back in time to about 2 years after we started Family Drug Support, and a lady rang me and said she wanted to tell me her story. So I arranged to meet her on a North Shore coffee shop, and this lady came in. She was quite well presented, middle-aged woman. She sat down with me and gave me a business card which said Dr. So-and-so, general practitioner, and she explained to me that she had a practice on the North Shore and had been doing that for 7 or 8 years. She then went back to her, in her history, to when she was a teenager. At the age of about 15, she was a bit of a rebel at school, very bright, but she fell in with what you'd call a bad crowd, I suppose, and met a young man who was 23 years old. He was well into heroin, and he introduced her to heroin. The story she then told was quite horrific. She had 15 years of ongoing traumatic heroin use. She overdosed at least a dozen times. She attempted treatment several times. She had children which were taken away from her by the authorities, and nothing she did got her out of the heroin habit, or she was unable to follow through and recover. So she had quite a difficult time through that 15 years. She could have died at any time. Fortunately she didn't. And then at the age of 29, one morning she suddenly woke up with a burning thought in her head. I wish I'd gone to university. She then was kind of preoccupied with this thought for the next 24 hours, and she ended up enrolling at TAFE to do her HSC, and on the same day she enrolled on the methadone program. 10 years later, she graduated from medicine, and that was the day that she took her last dose of methadone. So this story rang a bell for me at the time, and of course I've heard the story repeated over many times over the years. People out of the blue, having struggled for years and attempted help many times, suddenly have something come into their head that motivates them to make the change. This is why Family Drug Support has always supported harm reduction. The idea of keeping people alive, the idea that while there's life there's hope, until they get to that point where they make these kind of decisions. And we've seen hundreds and hundreds of people make similar decisions to this lady. Unfortunately for my son Damien, who died 20 years ago today, he never lived long enough to make that choice. So that's why we favour harm reduction strategies such as pill testing, injecting facilities, heroin prescription, etc. Because we believe that people can and do come out of drug use, even problematic drug use, and we should give them every opportunity to do that. Now the other highlight of this lady's story, of course, is that she was a person who was bright, who obviously had the ability to do medicine and to succeed at it, but all the time that she was involved with the drug, it was the drug that took the centre stage. And that's the point of this message. You know, we can put labels on people, we can put negative labels on people. It doesn't help them. What we need to do is see them as people. When people come to our remembrance ceremony every July, they don't talk about the drugs. That's long forgotten. but they remember the person they were. They remember their talents and qualities, their characters and their personalities, the fact that they liked animals, the fact that they were creative and artistic. That's what's important. So we've got to get rid of the negative messages, the negative labels that we put on people. Concepts such as rock bottom and clean and enabling, they have no real place, and they're only they're very unhelpful for families who are struggling to deal with this. Back to International Family Drug Support Day. We're so pleased this year that we are seeing events happening in Macau and Hong Kong, and particularly in the United States as part of International Family Drug Support Day. We welcome our friends from Families for Sensible Drug Law Reform in the United States, and we know that they are going to have events happening at the same time that we are, and that next year there are going to be more and more events over the rest of the world. So thanks again for coming along. It is really important that families are acknowledged, that their needs are attended to, and that they're given support. And we know that principally the main reason for this is that when you support the family, you are actually enabling an effective tool for dealing with the problem. Thanks again for coming, and enjoy the rest of the event.